You're not going to, I mean, at least I don't know of anyone that's probably won $1 million deal on day one. It starts small. And like you rightly said, in this day and age where instant gratification is the key, sales is a great leveler, I think. Most other roles also, but sales, especially the great leveler, it can almost get you to win a deal and then you don't. So long distance running is kind of similar in the sense that you train well, you do everything in your power, but then you kind of DNF, which is did not finish. Sometimes,
Yeah,
for whatever reason, you're not able to cross the finish line.
yeah.
So I think there are a lot of parallels between the two. But yeah, I think I draw inspiration from what I have learned through slow incremental steps and progress in physical activities. On a serious note, I think having interactions with customers, consumers of any hue or color, I think it automatically gives you a lot of empathy, or it helps you develop empathy. That's one. Second thing that it does is it hopefully it allows you to grow a thick skin. Two aspects very important, one on the empathy
Ability to
side
take
and
rejections.
absolutely, and that is true in sales, isn't it?
Yes.
I would assume, again, I'm not a big guy on percentages or numbers, but I'm assuming that maybe 1 out of 10 deals is what you win.
That's
Maybe there are
true.
people that win maybe more, but generally I think 1 out of 10 is what you'll end up winning. Original book that I wanted to write was nothing to do with curiosity, but it was in my mind, it was actually titled Accidental Salesperson.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what it was. And I wanted to write about my journey of getting into sales accidentally. That was brewing in my mind. So there was always some thought or the other around a book in my mind for 2.5 years, mostly in my mind. But this year, on my way to the US at the Bangalore airport, is when I started writing, opened my laptop just for the heck of it and started writing something. And the first thing I wrote about happened to be about curiosity.
Picture this. You are the kid who faked sickness to skip sports. Fast forward to your 40s and you become a distance runner. That's my guest today. My guest name is Ranga Jagannath. Welcome to the Marketing Couch. This is Jaideep. Here is what makes Ranga fascinating for us marketers. He cracked the code of sustainable growth, same discipline that gets you through a 21-kilometer marathon run. And it transforms how you handle difficult customers. The curiosity that makes you right, it changes how you position solutions. Ranga calls it accidentally wise, building habits that compound across work and life. Customer support to enterprise sales, non-runner to distance athlete, and tech industry to published author. This isn't just about career success. It's about mindset shifts that separate professionals who burn out from those who keep growing. Stick around to the end. Ranga shares the one sales practice that most people hate but has kept him energized for a decade. It's something every marketer working with sales teams need to hear. With this, I bring you Ranga Jagannath. Welcome, Ranga, to the Marketing Couch.
Thank you, Jaideep.
Great. I'm delighted to have you on the Marketing Couch today. And you are someone who is really special in terms of the career that you have carved for yourself. And, as we discuss along, my viewers will understand why I'm saying this. So let's get started, Ranga.
Sir, happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome to the show one more time. Let's start with something which is unique about you. You have spent over 9 years at Agora, where you are currently leading sales for India team.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you are also a distance runner, and you just published your first book called Accidentally Wise.
Yeah.
That's really quite a range. What connects these seemingly different tangent or pursuits?
So, if I were to use somewhat of a structure from the book itself, I think it is a combination of curiosity, stubbornness, and I think the inability to sit still. So, I think these are kind of what it is. But let me break it down as well. So, when I started running, it was not because I was a very good runner at any point of time in my life prior to that. It was actually to the contrary. But I was just curious to know what it would take to actually just run around the neighborhood park. That is how it started. And that's what got me into running, just curiosity. And also, if I'm a little more
Sorry,
honest,
and when was that? Like, was it in your 30s or 40s? Well, I don't want
okay,
you
so
to
this
reveal your
was,
age.
no, that's okay. No, this was pretty much in my 40s.
Okay,
This
all
was
right.
pretty much in my 40s. So,
And we'll assume it was not a midlife crisis.
looking back, it could have been, I don't know. But yeah, so so that's what kind of, so the curiosity to figure out what it would take to do something different and do something that can be a little stressful is what got me into running, with obviously with preparation, because 2 years prior to starting to actually run, I was actually working out, and I had gotten back into leading a healthy lifestyle. So it took me 2 years of building myself up leading up to running. So that's one aspect. The other aspect that you asked about was the work itself. So 9.5 years, moving to 10. What's kept me so long? And again, it's a matter of just curiosity. Because when I started with Agora, live audio video was not a thing. And it gave me an opportunity to figure out, okay, for myself actually, what is it all about? I was super excited when I actually tried on day one, even before joining Agora, what a live audio video call can actually look like. So that again, curiosity. And then the thing about writing the book, I think that was again to challenge myself on the non-physical side of things. I have been a voracious reader, but I just wanted to see how it would look like or feel like to put pen to paper. Yeah, curiosity, a little bit of, I would say, stupidity, inability to sit still, like I said. So I just want to keep myself engaged and busy. So I think in all these three aspects, these are the common threads, which is curiosity, stubbornness, and the inability to sit still.
So when you say stubbornness, is do you actually mean by stubbornness is that once you decide to pursue something, you will achieve that? Is that kind of a stubbornness? Is that
So I may not really end up achieving what I started off with or to what the end goal was, but I generally would not give up without giving it my best shot. It may not yield the results that it eventually, whatever the results are, it may not lead to that, but in my mind, I just have to be convinced that that's the best that I could have given. Just to give a very simple example, no matter what I try, it's very hard for me to kind of break the 2 hour barrier in a half marathon, which is 21 kilometers. So it's not because I'm not putting in the hard yards or whatever, but it's just something that I've made my peace with, that I'll always be maybe a minute or two over 2 hours, and very rarely under 2 hours. But that stubborn streak continues. That okay, one day maybe I'll get consistent with a sub 2 hour half marathon. So yeah, so
yeah, I mean, let's keep finger crossed, and you will hopefully do a sub 2 hours marathon, half marathon.
yeah,
So I think the other pursuit that you also have is a newsletter, right? Um,
yes.
and that's also relates to. Shall we attribute those the newsletter also to those three things that you just mentioned?
Yes, I think those three attributes are the underlying foundation for anything that I generally do.
Hmm.
With the newsletter, it is also about. So let me backtrack a little bit. So over the past year or so, because of my own stupidity, I have had two injuries which have not allowed me to run as much as I would have liked to run.
Got it.
So there was always this pent up pressure or something building up, saying that how do I now let go of what's brewing inside me? So I found writing to be a way in which I could express myself, either equally or better, I don't know, than running, but at least I could express myself. And that's what kind of got me started to writing this newsletter every Thursday. And in the course, I realized that there are so many things that I hear and see every day to day things that I was probably not paying attention to. So the newsletter is just a way of me putting those experiences or those visuals into a written form.
Okay,
Uh,
so
Now
we
it's
will.
become second nature. Yes.
Awesome, and we will talk about a little bit about the newsletter a little later. But
Sure.
before we move forward, I'm curious to know, and I'm sure my audience will also be curious about Agora, where you work and you spend almost close to a decade.
Hmm.
What does Agora? I mean, what does the company do? What kind of offerings the company has? Who is the target audience for the company? Can you share a
Sure.
little bit of insights so that we have a better context of what you do there?
So think of Agora. Like, so again, I might be called out for giving this example, but let's see how it goes with your audiences and otherwise. So we know the state of roads that exist in most cities, more so in Bangalore. And if you, even if you have the fastest car that's out there, you still will not be able to drive to its potential on the roads that exist or the infrastructure that we have. Now think of Agora like a road above a road, which allows you to zoom past, despite the poor infrastructure that one has. You can still use Agora to deliver very high quality, low latency, live interactive audio video capability. So
Okay.
if you have used any third party or if you have used any independent software, either for learning, for webinars, or even for social interactions or social conversations, even astrology, for example, if you have used any of those, it's possible that Agora is the one that's powering the live interactive layer. So we provide that layer. We are like the backroom boys that provides the technology that allows for very high speed, high quality, low latency, live interactive voice and video. And now with AI coming into the mix, conversational AI becoming a thing, we are neck deep into that as well. So it's the same layer that powers a lot of these use cases.
Got it.
So
How does the
that's
AI
that.
part comes in there?
Let's give. I'll take some examples. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not passing a judgment here. A lot of people are comfortable talking to a non-human these days to express themselves. So, there are toys, for example, which have got chips embedded in them, which are enabled for real-time conversation. And some of these conversations or some of these toys are actually powered by technology like Agoras, or in fact, Agoras, which allow for a human to actually have a conversation with a toy, in this case, to have meaningful live lifelike conversations with a non-inanimate object, so to say.
Okay.
So this is obviously powered by a combination of what we call real-time communication, LLMs, AI, and a whole bunch of things, because you got to understand context. You got to be mindful of that the AI doesn't respond in a manner that's hurtful or harmful to the person having a conversation, be age sensitive, context sensitive. So a whole bunch of these things are now also under the umbrella of what Agora offers.
And is that still B2B or is it a B2C kind of domain?
For Agora, it is always going to be B2B,
Correct.
uh, but obviously the end user is a consumer, so it's indirectly
Hmm.
B2B2C. But for Agora, it's
It's
always
going
a
to be
business that we would sell to.
okay. Okay. And what is this category called? I mean, just to understand again and add more context to it,
The
uh, the category where Agora fits in, and who probably
Sure.
are some of the other players in this market, if in case
So
customers.
the category generally is the core category is generally real time engagement.
Got it.
It
Okay.
started off as real time communication, but then it became real time engagement, and
Hmm.
now it is loosely called conversational AI. So that's what it
Okay.
is. There are
Okay.
several players out there in different forms and in different bits and pieces of the ecosystem, and it's not like Agora powers all of it on its own. We obviously also partner with people that have built technologies that are well suited for a certain part of the business. So yeah, it's a mix and match of competition and co-opetition.
Okay. Got it. Any aha moment that you remember when maybe a customer first saw or experienced what you guys have built?
For me personally, I go back about 9.5 years, when live audio video was not yet such a big thing. So for me personally, it was when our first customer in India actually went live uh, with with Agora. So it was a very simple use case. It was just one-to-one live calling from an app to another app. I mean, from one user on the app to another user on the app for both voice and video. It was just a very simple use case. But 9.5, 10 years ago, that for me was kind of exciting
Amazing.
to see that, okay, now we have something or somebody in the real world that is dependent on this technology. And for them, whatever their context is, it was something that was very unique and meaningful for them.
So, Ranga, who were the early adopters of this technology? Do you remember?
Yes, the earliest one in India for sure was Hike Messenger. And then there were a whole bunch of surprisingly telemedicine customers at that time. We think that COVID kind of accelerated it, but we actually had telemedicine customers even prior to COVID. And then, of course, a whole bunch of edtech customers. So, from a timing perspective, I think it was great timing for us. When I say that, in the sense that even prior to COVID, the edtechs, the telemedicines had already started implementing live into their apps and into their platforms. So when COVID actually hit, they were all well suited to kind of ride on that readiness that they already had in place. So I think in some ways it was fortunate timing for us. In some ways, the time that we got into the market and people started adopting it. So yeah, but now of course we have a whole, I mean, we have at least about eight, nine different verticals that use us very successfully.
And I think, yeah, I mean, rightly you said the overall technology or the mode of interactive engagement and communications, I think, exploded in last, especially after the COVID,
Yes.
I guess, right?
COVID was one, but there was one other watershed moment that I should mention here, which was actually Geo coming into the India market, because that
That's
kind
important.
of democratized the whole landscape.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
I
right.
think, yeah,
You're
so
right.
Geo
So,
followed by COVID kind of.
correct. So,
Yeah.
Ranga, you have spent almost a decade at Agora. We discussed that.
Hmm.
And during this period, you have been growing their market in India and the neighboring countries.
Hmm.
That's basically rare today, in terms of spending a decade in that. So, what
Hmm.
kept you engaged, and how have you evolved in this role? Right? I'm curious.
So, so first on a lighter note, my manager is not in the same time zone as I am. So,
Yeah,
so in some ways, there's nobody breathing down my neck during the
sure,
business hours in India. But that's on a
sure.
lighter note. Of course, we do keep in touch and we keep updating each other on progress. But more than that, I think intrinsically, I have always been slightly rebellious in my outlook and approach to life and to work in general. What I mean by that is that I've always had this streak of trying to do something that's against the grain. If somebody says that, okay, you are not supposed to do this, most likely I'll probably do that and seek for forgiveness later. I am not advocating that to anyone or anybody listening or watching this. Take it with a bucket of salt. Don't try this. Don't attempt this stunt at home. As they say, it's worked for me. But what I love about Agora and even other organizations that I've been a part of is the freedom that and the trust that they have give or imposed in me to be able to take the right decisions and kind of sometimes take the opposite path than what most people would take. Different roles. I mean, I don't want to go back to the beginning of my career. That will be too long a story. But at Agora itself, I have worn multiple hats. So when I started in year one, I was the salesperson, I was the customer support person, I was also the billing person. So
Okay,
it was all three roles that I was kind of doing. I was in some ways even the legal person, finance person, everything rolled into one. So
correct.
that kind of
And
gave me
probably
the
that also is the flavor of early stage startup
yes.
where you
In fact,
multitask and wear different hats.
absolutely. In fact, Agora at that time was in their own journey. They were just, I think, about a year old in their own journey. So, for all practical purposes, Agora was a startup when I joined them. And luckily, that has continued even now, even after going IPO. In some parts of the business, at least the business that I am responsible for, we still would like to believe that we work within the boundaries of being an IPO'd company, but with the ability and flexibility to work as a startup, to function as a startup. I think that has been key, that the organization supports and allows us to work and take certain decisions and risks for the market that, or in the markets that we operate in. I
And
think
perhaps
that's
also
the
grow and evolve in that in your own journey, and also
absolutely,
as a professional, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So let's be honest. Growing a market from scratch is tough, right? And we know that. And you started pretty much at the beginning, at least in India, of their journey. Can you
Yes,
share any story that maybe is from your early days with an early customer where you had the initial breakthrough that taught you
yes.
something that is significant in terms of sales or business development in India market in particular?
Two, three things here. Again, first, I'll take a slightly non-conformist approach. I did not come with any baggage of being a salesperson prior to Agora. So I've always been in customer support, consumer support, a little bit of product, a little bit of program management, a little bit of hospitality background and stuff like that. So I was not a salesperson when I came into Agora.
Do you think it's
So
an
that
advantage that you have played different roles?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That kind of gives the flexibility and the latitude to do different things and to experience different aspects of a business for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you were
And
in a
little
customer facing role, not customer facing, but you were in a role customer support where you actually had to deal with customer or
yes,
consumer, whichever way we look at from
yes,
whichever domain. You also did
yes,
product, that's
a little bit
basically
of
the
product.
core,
Yes,
yeah. And you also did program management, which is orchestration.
yes.
So that gives you a breadth of organizational internal collaboration
No,
knowledge.
and not to forget that I actually did start a startup and closed it and shut a startup successfully as well.
Oh,
Not
okay.
exited, not exited, but shut a startup. So I've
Do you
kind
want to
of
share what was it about?
it was about something to do in the location-based services space, and that's why I kind of remember very distinctly about Geo coming into the market and democratizing
Mm,
it, because Geo coming in actually meant smartphones became very prevalent, data was prevalent,
mm,
and adoption was massive, where
mm,
where enterprises no longer needed operator-based location anymore that we were offering as a service.
mm.
So that was that. Coming back to your question,
Yes,
um, yeah, coming back to your question in terms of the growth of the market itself from zero, literally. First, I
correct,
did not come with any baggage. I had no baggage of, I had no expectations. Neither did anyone have any expectations of me. So that was good, a no pressure situation to start with.
correct.
And the second thing, which I think I learned and I'm grateful for, is the is that in whatever role that one is, one should always cultivate a network, not from a point of view of leveraging it in the future or with selfish motives, but you never know when a person or a network can actually come in handy. To give you an example of this, I spoke about Hike Messenger being the first customer of Agoras in India. It
Correct.
did not happen because I knew somebody at Hike or magically Hike approached me or something like that. In a past role, I had worked with somebody that was at Airtel, and I knew at that time, directly or indirectly, Airtel or its founders had a stake in Hike Messenger. So just because I had done business with somebody at Airtel in my past role, I reached out to that person and said, "Hey, look, I've got this role. I think Hike Messenger might be a good fit. Can you introduce me to somebody at Hike Messenger?" Luck would have it, the person knew exactly the person that would probably be influential in that decision and connected the two of us. That's what kind of opened the doors for me at Hike Messenger. And one thing led to the other, and we are here today with several customers using us in India. So I think the power of network is what I'm trying to kind of mention here. It's very important that you maintain relationships with people, don't burn bridges. You never know when somebody will come in extremely handy to you. Yeah, so I think again, if you notice, I did not say anything about sales as thing, but more on the
Correct.
human aspect of, more on the human side of things. I think that's what kind of honestly helped me, and support from the from my manager who continues to be helping me with cracking difficult deals.
Yeah, no, I think this is a very good example, and I think sales probably is a great role where I see the networking piece manifests really well. Ultimately, sales is all about creating the goodwill in the market, and really not looking at always short term, but working with
Yes,
people to solve their problem. At the end of the day, the way I look at sales, and I think in the consultative space, sales space today, especially in the technology space where you're not selling boxes anymore, the conversation is always about what is the problem that you are trying to solve today,
absolutely.
and is there a better way to solve that problem through technology, right? I
Yes,
guess that's just to simplify things at the least.
absolutely. I think empathy is an underrated skill in sales.
Yeah, I mean, even in the positioning and messaging exercise that I do in marketing, usually it always starts with that. That what is your current way of solving your problem? what is the pain that you're facing while solving that particular
Yes.
problem, and how is this technology can help you remove that pain, at least to start with, right?
If I can just add one more thing to that, Jaideep.
Sure.
Most times, and my customers may think otherwise of this, but most times customers don't know that they have a problem or there is something that needs to be solved for.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes they are not even aware of that.
yeah,
And sometimes it takes a little bit of persuasion, like you said.
yeah.
But I think also another important element is to be able to connect the dots. When I say connect the dots, it may not be coming from the person that you're trying to do business with. It may be coming from the signals that the organization is sending publicly. Something as simple as saying, okay, company A raised $Y million for this activity. Now, if that is the stated goal or reason why an organization has raised money, and if your solution can work towards that or in that direction, I think that's a much easier way to kind of approach that organization and hopefully sell your product or service than trying to force fit your solution when the organization is looking at this at east, you are trying to sell them something that's going to take them west.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
true. Actually, that brings the first thing is again in going back to the marketing hat, know your customer, right?
yes,
Because I think that when we say know your customer, it's not just about their business, but also at the stage of their business, the people that they work
absolutely.
with, right, and the market that they exist in,
Yes,
and their competitors, everything, so that you are
yes,
much better positioned to offer something to them,
absolutely.
later
Yes,
on sale, right? At least start a conversation with them. So,
absolutely.
going back to, one of the questions that I actually wanted to touch with you is that before Agora, you spent years in customer support roles like companies like EFI
Mm,
or Unimobile. How did
yeah.
the frontline customer support experience shaped up your current role, if at all it has done in any way, the sales and the business development part?
Again, on a lighter note, it made me lose hair. No, but no. On a serious note, I think having interactions with customers, consumers of any hue or color, I think it automatically gives you a lot of empathy or it helps you develop empathy. That's one. Second thing that it does is it hopefully it allows you to grow a thick skin. Two aspects very important, one on the empathy
Ability to
side
take
and
rejections.
absolutely and that is true in sales, isn't it?
Yes,
I would assume, again, I'm not a big guy on percentages or numbers, but I'm assuming that maybe 1 out of 10 deals is what you win.
that's
Maybe there
true.
are people that win maybe more, but generally, I think 1 out of 10 is what you'll end up winning. I think an early days in consumer or customer support actually helped me develop that empathy and the thick skin to take any hard knock that comes one's way.
Yeah, no, I
So
relate to that because only 5% of your customers actually are buying at any point of time.
th-
The
there
rest
you go.
95% are shopping or just,
Yeah. Yeah.
doing a window shopping, as we say.
Or maybe they're not genuinely ready yet.
Or maybe they are just looking at, in terms of their vision and strategy and where they want to go and what it requires for them to build that next version of their company or even their function or sales, right? So,
Exactly.
I mean, what part of sales energizes you? Is there anything that really excites you? Because as you mentioned, this I believe is your first sales role.
Yes, first formal sales role. I think of it as humans or even as animals. I think we are all trying to sell, whether we
Absolutely.
like it or not. We call it by any name, but inherently, I think we are trying to sell to somebody or the other. But yeah, in a formal sales role with numbers associated, yes, this is my first outing. What energizes me is, I think, just to be able to see a customer use our product or service to solve a problem. I think that gives me a kick even today. Even if it's a small use case, even if it's a use case that's been done a million times, that we have seen a million times, just the act of a customer's app being live with your service on the App Store or Play Store or on their website, I think that that gives me at least extremely extreme joy.
Anything that is not you're not so fond of in sales?
Again,
I'm asking
contrarian
this
view here.
because
Yeah, yeah,
folks who are looking to build a career or switch career horizontally,
yeah,
um,
sure.
one should always know their
Yeah, So I've been so two things. I'll mention two things. One that I don't really enjoy too much, and this again is a contrarian view. I don't like looking at forecasts and spending sleepless nights, end of the quarter. Oh, is this going to close? Not going to close, and stuff like that. That stuff I think takes the joy out of a lot of people's lives in terms of a sales role. Because a lot of salespeople, I think, are under pressure uh, to deliver those numbers. Nothing wrong with it. That's they signed up for it, so they better deliver on it. But that's something that I think sometimes takes the joy out of the whole experience.
Got it.
Uh, this is there anything else that I don't like? The other thing that I have, or let me say that what I've been immune to, maybe because I got into this game fairly late, is that, and also because of my lifestyle choices, I think I'm able to push back on a lot of social engagements that come typically associated with sales, entertaining, late nights, and stuff like that. Traveling is something that I enjoy, so no complaints
Mm,
there.
mm.
But the act of entertaining and things like that, just for the sake of it, is something that I have luckily been immune to. But I think that's something that if people like it, that's their choice. But
Mm.
if I were in a role or if I were put in a position where I'm expected to entertain people, that would be something that I would not have liked in sales.
Got it. Yeah. And I think with you mentioned about certain lifestyle choices, that's a good segue
Hmm.
to my next question, which is basically, so you have been running quite consistently
Hmm.
past few years, and I believe you are also an amateur cyclist as well.
Hmm.
um, these habits were formed during your time at the residential school is what I believe. How does this discipline or the mindset of this kind of a sports that you see actually helps you in at your work? Because distance running is something that basically is completely opposite to your instant gratification, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So the school did have an impact on me, on my physical activities. But at school, I was the first person to report to the MI room, reporting sick before any physical sport or activity. And I'm not making this up. It is a fact that I was one of the poorest athletes in the school, if I can use the word athlete at all. So I was by no stretch of imagination an athlete of any sort. Given an option, I would always bunk cross country. I would always try and bunk any of these activities. But the reason I say that the school has been influential is because I always, for the years that I was there, I always saw a lot of these activities around me. And while I did not pick it up at school, much later in life, due to circumstances, I was forced to get into a better lifestyle regimen. So, since I had seen it back in the day, and also I had seen it in my close family because both my brother and my father were in the armed forces, I had seen the kind of discipline and I actually did write an article a few years ago. If I were to use, I don't know if how many of the audience may know the phrase. It's called Sahavasa Dosha, which means that you become or you tend to pick up something that is there in your environment, good, bad, ugly, whatever. So I
True.
fortunately happened to pick this up, and it came in handy later on in life when I had to get into these activities. So yeah, so that's the influence that the early days at a residential school had on me.
So did that? How do you see that it has helped you in your career, or it is helping at least now? Now that you are more active.
Yeah. So again, I'll have to just point back to an article I wrote literally last week or so, where I mentioned that the small steps are what are probably more important than the big leaps.
Very
And
important.
so, just to give you an example, if I were to wake up today without any training and preparation and say, okay, somebody's doing a full marathon, which is 42 kilometers, and let me also do a full marathon. If luck is on my side, if I have half decent health, maybe I will struggle through it and complete it. But that's not something that you start with. You start with baby steps. You'll probably run around the park. You'll probably do a 400-meter track. You'll probably do a few loops, hopefully progress into 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers, 10, maybe more, and then hopefully get to do a full marathon. So the small steps, incremental steps are what I think are very important and necessary. And exactly the same in sales as well. You're not going to, I mean, at least I don't know of anyone that's probably won $1 million deal on day one. It starts small. And like you rightly said, in this day and age where instant gratification is the key, sales is a great leveler, I think.
Hmm.
Most other roles also, but sales, especially the great leveler, it can almost get you to win a deal and then you don't. So long distance running is kind of similar in the sense that you train well, you do everything in your power, but then you kind of DNF, which is did not finish sometimes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you're not able to cross the finish line.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
there are a lot of parallels between the two. But yeah, I think I draw inspiration from what I have learned through slow incremental steps and progress in physical activities.
So, like you, I also started pretty late physical side of activities. I used to play badminton in my school days,
Hmm.
but that's about it. After school, I did not pursue, got busy like most of us with higher studies and then, job and, things went off until I sort of hit 40. And that's when, there's a friend of mine, I was in Delhi, who kind of pulled me into this runners group, a
Hmm.
club for long distance runners. And almost just to give him company, I went there.
Hmm.
Only to realize that I had this notion that I can still run without any problem, but then realized that actually I am probably still at a 0 to 1 level. And
Yeah,
it was a great level in terms of really discovering that, and continued that journey over
absolutely.
the period of time. One thing that sports taught me, that not just one thing, but let me take a few examples, is I think marathon is probably, or long distance running is a great example, is that we discussed that instant gratification, right? So you need to be consistent and
Yes,
take small steps in consistency. It is only when you are able to do it over and over and over again is when your body muscles, and if you draw parallel to our mental muscle, slowly starts getting warm up. And
yes,
as they start
absolutely.
to get warm up, they build those muscles over a period of time. It's only then your body knows that I'm supposed to do that, I'm supposed to withstand this, 2 hours of
Yes,
running.
trauma.
Wear and tear, right? Whether
Yes,
it is your knees or your cuff muscles or your,
yes,
shin area, whatever, right? So that's a real testament of your. So that's that. That first thing is it takes time to build things. So one need to be patient. Second is, so I have been also doing yoga,
hmm,
and over the last 2 years, have completed, not even 2 years, a year and a half. I've completed about 250 hours of yoga.
wow,
Now that also taught me in terms of balancing not just body but also mind,
mind,
uh, ability to switch completely to a different environment quickly. So yoga is a great sort of tool,
absolutely.
which essentially help you to do that and build the strength internally. So I think those things at this sort of at this juncture of, I think, our career, if anyone who has picked up sports, especially anything that is physical sports, you would know that these things actually helps a lot. And yoga also, and again, the story there is same, right? Consistency. 250 class is also 250 hours of sessions is also basically teaches you that you need to stay humble. And even after 250 hours, I feel like I'm just getting started,
Yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, like they say, you don't step into the same river twice because it's always flowing. So similar to that, no two events that you participate or practice or yoga or anything else, I think no two sessions are going to be same. You will discover new things. You will encounter new things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally resonate with that.
And my latest love is squash. So
Good luck
another
with that.
another super intense sports,
Oh,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. Crazy.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so I think there's a lot to take away. But let's switch the gear,
Huh?
and let's move to a more on your other side of your career at this stage, which is you recently published Accidentally Wise, which is your, I believe, is your first book.
Hmm.
Very interesting title. Is there any anecdote or story why Accidentally Wise, and what prompted you to write?
Yeah. So I was originally fairly lazy to pick a title. So the title that I'd actually chosen was based on my Substack, which is Peak Pursuit and something else. So that was the title for it. Almost that's the one that I almost sent to the publisher. But then took a step back, discussed with the family, and we were just brainstorming and saying that, hey, what would be a good title for this? So we came up with a bunch of names. One of the things that we consciously did while coming up with this name was not to use any AI based tools. And the lazy option for me was to use Peak Pursuits, which is my Substack, as the title of the book itself. Because originally that's how I started thinking that, okay, a collection of my essays is what will find its way into the book. That's a different story. That didn't happen. But then we thought about a few options and we thought, what exactly is this book about? So this book is actually about something that has happened in my life by choice or accident, mostly by accident, and it has left me a little wiser. Just a combination of these two things is kind of when we said, okay, accidentally wise might be a good title to go with. And that was pretty much it. So I think we spent an evening trying to brainstorm as a family, and we kind of came up with this collectively.
So, what is the premise of the book, and whom is it that you have written? Whom do you really want? Is this for everyone, or is there a specific set
And
of
so
people?
so the youngest reader that I have had or heard of so far is 9 years old. The oldest is a lady that's I think 90 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I am not making it up. I have actually gone and met the lady and sought her blessings.
Hmm?
So that's the spread. So it's actually a book that can be read across generations. It is not some it is there are no frameworks, there are no gospel truths in this. It is just me and my experiences with different things in life at different stages of my life, and told with a bit of humor thrown into it. That's pretty much what it is. It's about curiosity. It's about allowing us to take those risks that we want to take in life, sometimes making mistakes, sometimes succeeding. And yeah, it's just a journey of curiosity at the end. That's what it is.
So, you also write a newsletter. We spoke about it, and then you wrote
Mhm.
this book as well. How long this? How long it took for you to write this book?
I've been thinking about the book for 2, 3 years now. The
Okay.
original book that I wanted to write was nothing to do with curiosity, but it was in my mind, it was actually titled Accidental Salesperson.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what it was. And I wanted to write about my journey of getting into sales accidentally. So, writing a book has been on my mind for a couple of years, or had been on my mind for a couple of years. It originally started with an idea of me wanting to write about my journey in sales.
Hmm.
In my mind, it was also titled Accidental Salesperson. But early this year, on my way to the US at the airport, I started writing something, and it turned out to be about curiosity.
Okay.
And then I just stuck to that theme. It took me about 4.5 months from the first draft, a couple of iterations, to the time I sent the manuscript to the publisher. It took me about 4.5 months. Some people say that it's
How
a
many
very
pages?
aggressive.
Yeah,
This
yeah, it
is,
is. It sounds very aggressive to me. How many
yeah,
pages?
this is this is 204 pages if you actually count the number of chapters. But if
Hmm.
you add the preface and whatever else, then it's about
Hmm.
200 pages.
Did you take any
But
help from any editor or anything to write this,
uh,
plan this?
um, so the publisher themselves has an editing team, but I believe there were not too many edits. If I'm not wrong, there were probably in this whole manuscript, if I'm not wrong, there were about 10 to 12 edits at most. And some of them were common in the sense that I had interchangeably used US and British English.
Okay.
So we just had to stick to one version. So that was one kind of change. There were, I think, one or two places where there were some duplicates and stuff like that, but not too many edits. Actually,
That sounds amazing, actually,
yeah,
Ranga.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, but I was very clear that I was going to address four kind of groups
hmm.
in this book, and because I had that clarity of thought, I didn't really have to struggle too much with the content itself.
Understood. Talk about a little bit about the newsletter. I mean, how long you have been publishing Peak Pursuit, which is your
It,
name of your newsletter?
it's It's April 2024 is when I think I published my first newsletter on Substack.
Hmm.
But prior to that, on Medium, I think I had been publishing on and off on Medium, but that was far and few between. I've imported all of them migrated all of them onto Substack now. But my first article on Substack was April 24. Actually came out of frustration because RCB was not doing well. And I had just read a book by Alex Hill called Centennials. And I was just trying to draw parallels between what long lasting organizations do and teams, how they function, versus what at that time I considered was a dysfunctional team, which was
Hmm.
RCB. This was April 24. Of course, things changed a year later. I
Hmm.
don't take any credit for that with RCB. But yeah, that was the first article. And then I said, okay, I've written one article. I think I
How was
like
the
it. And
response when you first published? Was it like
that
cricket
article,
or?
that was yeah, obviously about RCB and cricket. So that article actually got extremely positive reviews and response. And that's what I think kind of encouraged me to write an article the next week.
And this was the
My
very first.
first article, yes,
Okay.
the very first article. It's still, I think, one of the highest read or commented articles on my Substack at least.
Hmm.
And that encouraged me to write um, for the following week. The original article was published on a Friday, but then just I maybe I should have stuck with just being releasing it on Friday. But me being me, did a little bit of research. I said most people algorithmically Thursday afternoons, blah blah blah. I said okay, let's look at Thursdays to publish the next article. So
I
the
see.
next article got published on a Thursday, and then that cycle kind of just continued. So every Thursday, again at a very unusual 7:44 a.m. IST, just happened to pick it,
So
not
you
for any
finished
scientific
writing the
reason.
draft the day before itself, and then you.
No, actually, it depends. I generally try to finish it off by the Sunday of the previous week. And sometimes I stack up the articles because you never know when inspiration kind of hits. So in some cases, I write two articles on a weekend, or maybe three articles, or even the entire month's quota. I just
Hmm.
finish it off. And then
Are you a
I, of course, keep
fast
fine tuning
writer?
it. Say that again.
Are you a fast writer or?
Maybe I think fast is all I can say. I don't know if I write fast. These days we all type, at least I type my articles. So I'm
Hmm.
not a fast, I don't type fast, but I tend to think fast, is what I'd like to believe.
So your newsletter again spans everything from stargazing to
Yes.
workplace success to and then to success to gratitude,
Yeah.
all of that, right? And I think it,
Right.
like you said, it's curiosity, it's reflection. How do you decide what to write? Is it just you wait for
No,
a moment to
no, no, no.
spark, or is there a
It's
method to the
no,
madness?
there is no method to the madness. If there were, then you would have seen similar articles, maybe back to back, but there is actually no method to the madness. It just what I feel on that day or time when I'm writing the article is what I just end up writing about. Sometimes it's just gut feel. Sometimes it's sheer luck. Sometimes, more often than not, honest truth is it's laziness.
So
So,
let's switch gear again, and I want to talk about a little bit on the on your how do you sort of stay updated in terms of growing professionally? I mean, you spent 20 plus years in the
mhm,
tech industry now after your hospitality
mm,
management, which I think it was your
yeah,
initial choice of career, right?
yes,
And then you focused on that on the tech side as well,
yes.
and after that, I think you continued your journey. So there are domains that you have switched, there are technologies that you have switched, and there are roles and functions that you have switched.
Mm.
How do you sort of stay updated with the recent and latest and greatest and grow professionally? That is something that I'm sure a lot of people will be curious to know.
So, so there is no one on newsletters that I subscribe to or 10 newsletters that I subscribe to or whatever. I think it's just innately being curious. When I started my career, like you rightly said, back in the hospitality tech, I don't think I think majority of your listeners and viewers may not even relate to what I'm saying, which is that we used to actually carry floppy disks to install local area networks. I'm fairly confident most people will switch off at this point in time when I talk about this, but I had no background, so to say, in technology. My background was originally hospitality management, but because I had to chosen to get into technology, I had to learn that aspect. So it was learning on the go. Most of the things that I've learned or continue to learn are by literally getting my hands dirty. If I hear you talking to me about a certain tool today that you use for a certain activity, most likely I will go and try it out myself. In
Mm.
fact, just this past weekend, I was dabbling with Replit and happened to come up with UI UX for an app that's working on my mind. But we don't know whether it'll see the light of the day or not. So I actually opened up Replit and said, okay, worst case, what will happen? It'll throw a few errors. We'll figure it out as we go. So I think most of my learning happens two things. One, getting my hands dirty. Two, staying close to people that are much younger than me. Whether they like it or not, I like being in the company of younger people. So because I get to learn from what they are seeing and experiencing in the world around them. So I think that's what it is.
So, for someone who probably is inspired at this point of time, because we have covered quite a ground by your journey and the fact that you
Hmm.
have played multiple roles, and some of these are actually manifested in a very good way, even
Hmm.
where you are at this stage of your career. Whether we talk about the writing discipline, the the passion for running, long distance running, or you took a sales role, which you have never played before. All of that, how would you sort of advise anyone who is looking to
Hmm.
balance their professional growth with their personal pursuits? Because I think a lot of people, especially at the mid age, or especially after 30, I think they end up doing a trade off,
Hmm.
saying, okay, I have too many things on my plate, and I though used to like playing badminton or tennis or running, but I'll pick it up some other day. But right now, the only thing that matters to me is how do I earn more, maybe take up more responsibilities, stretch myself more.
Yeah, and I think there's nothing wrong in that approach either, except what I would say is that a lot of people talk about work-life balance, but I don't think there is ever a perfect balance between work and non-work. At some stage in your journey, you will have no option and choice but to focus on work. There would be other times in your life and journey where you would get more time to pursue your interests outside of work, and then work will take a slight back seat. So it's always going to be a mix and match. There's no magic formula there. That's at least that's what has been in my life. I was crazily focused on my career up to a certain point till I discovered running, and then running took the front seat. But the good thing is that just because non-work takes front seat doesn't mean that your work has to suffer. I think what you do outside of work should directly or indirectly actually fuel your work.
Totally agree.
I
Yeah,
think
and
if
that's
you are
why the
able to
word
find
balance is
that,
important.
if you're able to find the magic sauce in your life, I think that is the secret of of having a fairly long and successful work slash life, if I may say so. There's, but striving for a perfect balance, I think, is chasing fool's paradise.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. But I think one of the things that at least works for me now is understand what really I care, whether it is personal life, family life, work, specific meeting, going out, or an activity that I want to pursue on the personal side. If that is something that, and then it's all about prioritization, right? I mean, I think that's about
Absolutely.
it. Good. So let's wrap up, Ranga. But before we do that, where can people find you?
I am on LinkedIn. Ranga Jagannath is the easy way to find me. The book is available on Amazon under Accidentally
Yeah, I'll
Wise.
put a link there. Yes.
Yeah, and I am there on Instagram under ranga.run, but I barely use it.
Okay.
LinkedIn is where probably most people will be getting a response back from me.
Perfect. So, Ranga, I think it was a great pleasure having you on the marketing couch today. And we have had a different kind of a different style of conversation where we spoke about how do you excel at work, especially at sales for a startup, while also pursuing other interests. So, thanks for your time, Ranga, on the show. And
Thank you, Jaideep. Thank you so much. It was thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you so much.
all right. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.